A very long time ago, there was a giant tapestry. It was all over the earth and maybe even larger. No one knew how large it was, and at that time, it wasn't the size that mattered. What did matter was how strong it was and how it held everything in life. Some of the threads were thick and some so thin that a human eye might not be able to see it, although a fly's eye probably would. The pattern was so intricate and complex that it was hard to see it all. Seeing it all didn't matter then as much as how it felt. How it felt to be held in that strong tapestry with everything else. There were the usual ups and downs, comings and goings of life, and some life forms disappeared from the tapestry, while others appeared. The tapestry needed constant attention from weavers. Some say that the weavers were young women, and some say old women. Some say that the tapestry was woven by a spider. I don't know for sure, but weavers were always creating new designs whenever the threads were damaged. They were always repairing the tapestry so that it was strong and so that it held everything. The life in the tapestry learned to weave as well. Even the tiny helix threads that held the codes learned to weave new life. There was no higher or lower. That came later. There was no inside or outside of the tapestry. That came later as well, when some of the humans decided to use their imaginations to imagine that they were outside of the tapestry looking down on it. The tapestry was so complex and intricate and captivating that they began to pull it apart to look at each strand. As they pulled thread after thread out of the tapestry, and then pulled each thread apart from itself, they learned many mysterious things, and so they kept going. The holes they left in the tapestry were repaired by the weavers, and life went on. But after hundreds of years of more and more humans pulling the tapestry apart, the weavers were no longer able to keep up with them. Holes began to show in certain parts of the tapestry. Still curious, those humans traveled to other places on the tapestry and pulled these areas apart as well. The weavers were kept very busy repairing the damage. More and more pieces of the tapestry were left lying about unconnected. More and more humans were left unconnected as well. When they were no longer connected to the tapestry, they began to feel sick. They tried to weave small tapestries of their own to fill the holes, but they couldn't connect their small tapestries with the larger one, and so they were not held up when the ups and downs and comings and goings of life occurred. The weavers could see that the curious ones were in trouble. They could see that the holes could get larger and larger. They remembered that the thing that mattered was the strength of the tapestry when it held all of the life. The curious ones had forgotten what mattered, as they only followed the apparently insatiable curiosity in their heads. The weavers had many meetings. They made sure to listen to all of life in order to reweave the tapestry. Some of the weavers had forgotten what the tapestry used to look like. They had to consult with the very tiniest threads in their cells that held the codes, the maps, the remembering. They decided to work in the areas of the tapestry where they found themselves. They took the strands of the threads that were lying about and patiently rewove them into thicker strands. They patiently reconnected those threads to each other and to all of life. What they found was that after some repair, other weavers appeared. Weavers that remembered. Weavers that listened to the coding in their tiniest strands. The weaving didn't always look perfect. Sometimes the colors didn't complement each other. Sometimes knots stuck out. But the weavers knew that they could keep on repairing and weaving as time went on. They concentrated on putting the strongest threads in place first, like the threads between the humans and the trees. The trees were expert weavers, and once in place, they filled in the tapestry around them. More humans learned how to weave as well. They learned much from the trees and the spiders who had never stopped weaving. They patiently found the strands and pieces of thread lying about. They listened to the humans who still remembered what the tapestry looked like. They listened to the coding in their cells. They listened to the tapestry, which amazingly began to weave itself as well. As more humans learned to weave, they remembered how to weave themselves back into the tapestry. They loved the feeling of being held. They loved the pull of the tapestry that told them of the ups and downs, the comings and goings happening everywhere. They loved following the threads to parts of life that they were curious about. But instead of pulling the tapestry apart to understand it, they were now able to understand the connections and how that affected all of life. The humans began to feel healthy again. They told stories from within the tapestry where they had been all this time. The tapestry now looked different than it had before the holes appeared, and it kept on changing as it was repaired and renewed, and it was always beautiful. I still don't know how big the tapestry is, but I do know that its size doesn't matter. What matters is its strength and how it holds all of life with the threads of relationship.